All right, and welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee, and my co-host, Clint Aiken.
Good to be here.
And after the third show today, I think I finally had it right. My energy's starting to bounce back.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Energy snacks, and I think it might be the ambiance in the room. Mr. Rick Torrison, the growth catalyst and the founder of Right Now Leadership here in the good old state or city of Houston, but he really covers everything and is making a huge impact over here in the Southeast Corridor. So, Rick, we're glad to have you. It's the second time on our show.
Yeah, first time was you guys were just getting started. It was like in the first series of
we didn't know who else to call, and you were like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah, I think
it was
we were
great.
sitting in some
so
room.
we're like, let's do it again.
I mean, it was a totally different deal than the nice digs you've got going on, the sound room. You know, you guys have really leveled up.
Oh yeah,
we've come a long way.
Next level,
and we all have a lot more gray since then. So that tells you a little bit about what the last couple of years have been like. So,
well, it's all good. The last couple of years have been trying on all of us.
Absolutely.
So we're still standing.
One thing that's exciting about not only the Economic Alliance, but kind of the commitment to the stakeholders and the individuals in this area is how much ownership goes into creating great leaders, whether it be in the service organizations or even driving them into the community or into the organizations that are the stakeholders themselves. There's a lot of investment into that. And so recently, you've been actively involved in some different type of leadership programs that are incorporating not only the members but also those that are just here regionally to I guess go out and be a better, perform better. So we're going to touch up on a little bit of that today for our audience, and that's kind of why we wanted to bring you on the show. So if you don't mind, though, for those that maybe didn't catch, I'll guarantee you they might not have caught the first episode because we were just right out the gate. We were clicking like 10 views, so now we've kind of exceeded that, and we're very excited about that.
We did that on Facebook Live too, didn't we?
Yeah, I think
we
so.
were like trying all kinds of new stuff.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was fun.
So now that we have you back, quick backdrop. So a little bit of your history so people know who you are and what kind of prepares you for the role that you're in today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, first of all, thanks for letting me be here. I enjoy your show. I watch it. You guys have had amazing speakers, amazing leaders, and influencers in the region. And so it's been every episode I've seen, and I haven't seen them all, but every episode I've seen has been a value add to anyone who's watching it. So, man, well done, and continuing to grow in everything that you guys are doing. So, and thanks for having me back. So I didn't perform that badly that, it only took you 2 years to invite me back. So maybe we'll see how we do this.
We got a little busy.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I've been busy too.
Yeah. I've been in the area, in the region, for about 35 years. Came down from Chicago, from Illinois. Chased a girl down here 30 years ago. Caught her. We've been married 30 years. Started out as a teacher and a coach. So that was my first entry into the area, and taught school, Pasadena High School, Clear Creek for a while, again 30 years ago. So if you're watching and went to Pasadena High School 25 years ago, I was coaching basketball there. So
nice.
Yeah, so it was good. But during that journey, I went into ministry. I planted some churches, started several businesses, had a coffee shop, commercial cleaning company. So I've done a little bit of everything, right? And as I was getting older and kind of reevaluating what I wanted to do and the influence I wanted to have in my life, really it came down to finding those areas of passion and how could I serve in those areas of passion to add value to people's lives. What I love to do is work with individuals and companies to help them discover that aha. Have you guys ever heard something where you heard it 1,000 times, but that next time it's like it clicks, right? It just steps in. And I love being a part of that with people. And so I was asking myself a question about 3 years ago. What do I do with that? How do you build a business? Okay, the truth, how do you make money? How do you monetize that, right? From sitting in a coffee shop with my counselor sign on my table and talking to people to actually growing a business. So I started Right Now Leadership about 3 years ago, and its passion and desire is to help people move from where they are to where they want to be. Help build roadmaps, whether it's individuals, teams, groups, or organizations. And so I've been doing that for a while. Got connected with Chad in this area. We've done some free lunch and learns that we did a couple years ago when I first started out. And then I visited with him and with Meador Staffing Services about 6 or 8 months ago, and I proposed to them an idea. What would it look like in all that's been going on to really add practical value and a quick hit to your members, to your clients, to your customers? And we would target in and ask them through a survey, what is the greatest need you're experiencing right now in your job, in your work life, in leadership? Right? And so we did that survey. We got about 130 or 40 responses from across the Alliance industry and Meador Staffing Services. And from that, we then built programs that we're offering monthly called the Transformational Leadership Series. Some of you may have experienced it. It's what do they call it now? It's both in person and live on a webinar. So you can come here to the Alliance, we feed you lunch, or you can be on the webinar. And it really revolved around, we've done 3, we've got one every month, second Tuesday of every month. It revolved around answering the questions that they were asking. And most of them had to do with not practical skills of their people or themselves, but really what we used to call soft skills, and now they're really called critical skills. What HR used to talk about in private, they're now talking about in public throughout the whole company. How do you grow leaders? How do you grow leaders who are growing leaders? Not just managers to get a job done,
right,
but people who are actually invested in the vision, mission, and values of the organization, and they're taking it to that next level. And so we started talking about that, the challenge with employee engagement, the challenge with what is leadership. We typically define leadership as something you do, and there is the doing of leadership, but really leadership is who we are. Everyone is a leader because I define leadership this way as influence and impact. And it could be negative or it could be positive. You can lead people to the negative result or to a positive result. So then I talk about transformational leadership, which is really what the company's about and what the training is we're doing with the Alliance and with Meador Staffing is transformational leaders are influencing people to greater influence and impact in a positive way, a positive outcome, right, and positive growth. And so that's really what we've been doing. And we've done 3. We've had anywhere from 50 to 140 people. We've had 180 that register, and then we get about 50 to 100,
nice,
give or take, that show up each month. So it's been fun. We've enjoyed it.
And how long is the series going on? So
we've talked about doing it through the year or as long as people are interested. So we finished our first quarter. We sent out a survey and said, is it adding value? So we sent out a survey after each one, and is there any other questions you'd like us to answer? And the response has been overwhelming. Everyone has said, please keep doing it. One of the things Chad said, who runs the Alliance, he said, I don't want to just have another infomercial, right, where I'm just trying to grow my business. I am trying to grow my business, absolutely. But the reality was, he said, if you don't give them something they can take away in that hour and actually apply, then we don't want to do it. And I said, well, that's all I want to do. So every time we meet, there's practical takeaways that they can begin to apply in their own leadership, their teams, their organizations every month within a 45, 50-minute window.
Wow.
And so I don't know how long we'll go. We'll go until the interest wanes. There's no sense in beating something that people aren't getting value from. Because the whole purpose is to add value, to help them grow in their leadership, grow their teams and their organizations. And so as long as that's happening, we're going to keep doing it.
So top 5, just top of mind, give me 5 things that if I was to come to one of these, that I might expect to gain when it comes to leadership. So do they know in advance what the subject is
Absolutely.
That time? Or okay, cool.
Yeah, so I do a video every month
Okay.
that introduces the topic. We're on a progressive journey. We started by defining leadership because it's really critical. How you define leadership is how you're going to lead. And every one of us operates from a definition of leadership, whether we know it or not.
Right.
And so the goal is, let's get a shared definition of leadership.
Or unfortunately from a lack of a definition.
A lack, but there's something, right?
Yeah.
It's like vision and goals and values. We all have them, whether we know them or not.
Sure.
They exist and they're driving us. And so one of the things you'll gain when you come in that short hour is there's 3 things I love to do in every training. Teach something. Right? So you'll learn something. I'll present information, statistics, real-time resources and facts about what's going on around that topic, whatever it might be. This last one that we did was on employee engagement, from disengaged to engage employees. How do you engage them? So you'll learn something. That's the first part of it. The second thing that we'll do is we always then take what you learn and we ask you to begin to live it. By living it, what we're saying is, how do you apply what you've learned to your life? None of us, let me ask you guys, how many of you want more information? Are you just looking for more information and knowledge just to put on your plate that's going to sit there and not do anything with it?
No.
No. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but none of us need more information. We need to do something with the information we have. So if I'm going to give information, there's an expectation that you're going to live that information. How will that information actually impact your day-to-day? And so we challenge that. So in that training, you're going to get a challenge we take timeouts in it, say, what is one thing you've learned? What's one thing you'll do different because of what you've learned?
Nice.
And they write it down. The last thing is, so we'll learn something, I'll challenge you to live it, and then I'll call you to lead in it. By leading in it, the challenge says, now who are you going to share it with? right? Because transformational leaders are all about growing leaders. You don't have to know everything to give it away. Sometimes we wait until we think we're experts, and the reality is we become experts as we share, as we dialogue, as we discuss. And so the third thing you'll get in everyone is write down who you're going to share this with or have a conversation with about this. Who do you want to present this thing that you're wrestling with, and talk to them and wrestle together, because the reality is, I say this a lot, we're stronger together than we are apart.
Absolutely.
And so that's really, doesn't matter what the topic is, those three things are going to happen in that hour, and then you're going to get practical tools that you can begin to apply right away within that context.
Fantastic. And so I was going to ask, transition to something, but then it dawned on me, this is a lot better caveat to jump into this question, so we'll go out of order.
Okay.
But it makes more sense based on what you just said.
We're going to fun facts?
No.
Straight to the fun facts. I'm in. All right, let's go. Purple. That's my favorite color.
Timeline,
no, that's not
we're
it.
tracking well.
Okay.
So let's talk about, because I think leadership's been redefined over the last 12 months, because you have people who, well, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of people who potentially never really had to face crisis leadership, crisis management. Right. Every single human faced crisis management over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And so, but what we're also starting to see is kind of this lifting of the kind of cloud over us. And I know for me personally, I know for Clint personally, we're all kind of adapting. Okay, wait a minute, we're kind of coming out of our shells.
Yeah.
And, okay, it's time to get back into the trenches. So from a leadership perspective, what was it like having to lead through the pandemic?
Right.
And then now that we're coming back out, what do you think are some of the adjustments leaders should be considering as they transition?
That's a great question.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think, Clint? I'd love to hear your answer. I'm ready.
While you think of your own?
Ready, go. The reality is, crisis leadership, non-crisis leadership, it doesn't matter. When you are growing yourself as a leader, you're preparing yourself for whatever comes, because you can't figure out what's coming. So it's being proactive in our own personal leadership. And the reality with crisis leadership, we immediately try to figure out, how do I solve the problem of the crisis? We have to. But if we haven't been dealing with a crisis within us, if we don't grow our own leadership, if we aren't working through how we lead, understanding how we communicate, how we lead, how we deal with conflict, if our own values and vision of ourselves as a person is not worked through, is not understood, if we're not working in that area, then when we get squeezed in the crisis or the pressure of moments, there's no telling what's going to come out. Because it's easy to lead when everything's okay, right? Because we're producing. Before COVID, there was a shortage of candidates in the market, right? There was jobs, but we couldn't find qualified candidates, right? And so that became an interesting conversation of how do you get people to do the jobs. Now we don't have a candidate shortage. We've got a motivation of candidate shortage. Plenty of candidates not motivated to work. So how do you lead in that? How do you motivate people? How do you work through crisis? And it begins with me. It's always personal. All of my leadership training, what I do, is personal before it's corporate. If you don't grow yourself as a leader, you can't grow others as a leader, and you won't manage crisis. What we saw in this, and you guys know this, is we got exposed. Our own leadership got exposed. Our own relationships got exposed. Our weaknesses got exposed. Our shortcomings got exposed. The veil got very thin in our sensitivity. We became more offended, and this is all up and down the line. The ones that are running organizations get overwhelmed and exhausted, with constantly changing during COVID, there was not the normal was what you were in that hour. The new normal was going to be the next hour.
Wow.
Right? And so you were just living in this place, and it's exhausting, but then things start pouring out of you. You guys have all heard, when you're squeezed, the true character comes out when you're squeezed. Well, unfortunately, I'll say this for me, I won't say it for anybody else, but I didn't like some of the character things I saw when I got squeezed. Here's the good thing about that, and this is the truth. If we're really about growing ourselves, growing leaders, being people of influence and impact, the real truth is that's a gift. Seeing what comes out that you don't like, the behaviors you don't like, the things you don't like, having those exposed, even though it's raw and ugly in the moment, is actually an opportunity for your greatest growth.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't know what to do with it or how to do it. We see it in our employees, and we start driving harder, just get the job done, you just hit the numbers, and we don't realize all that's happening in them, right? And so how do we grow them through that, not just demand them through that, right? And so it's an interesting process. It takes intentionality. It's hard to do, but the reality is, how do we become proactive? How do we start learning this before the crisis comes, so when the crisis comes, we can respond to the crisis, not react to it? That's what leadership development and growth is all about, because it's about influence and impact, not just getting the job done. It's about getting the job done. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's about producing and numbers and everything else, but these are hard times. Holding on to employees is difficult, right? The market is difficult. Government regulations are changing, are difficult. And so it's going to take creativity, innovation. I'm going to have to step outside my box. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. But you guys know this, and then I'll stop so you can keep asking. It's in our greatest uncomfort that our greatest growth comes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know, you play a guitar, and if the strings are loose and wobbly, you play guitar, right?
No,
don't you?
Not very good.
But I've seen a guitar in your world somewhere, right?
I think
so you play at it. It's okay.
Yeah,
so you're projecting to people you're a great guitar player. So
it's just part of my image.
So when the strings are not tuned or taut, what kind of music can you play? How's it sound?
Terrible.
When the strings
not
aren't
very good.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
So what makes beautiful sound? Tension.
Tension. Yeah.
The tension that you create in the string makes beautiful music. Same principle in our lives. The tension that comes has the greatest potential to make great music, or to great leaders, great impact, great change, great influence.
But it can't be so much that it's popping the strings.
So it's playing that deal, right? It's understanding where is that, but you can't do it without tension.
Right.
So if we look at tension, challenge, strife, obstacles, crisis as an opportunity for growth, and we change our mindset, everything changes. And those are the companies and businesses that have excelled and made money because they've seen it that way. So anyways, sorry, you get me going. And I'm
that's what I said. I'm fired up. You said squeezing stuff out of us. I said, I squeezed a lot of bourbon out of myself during the pandemic. That's one thing I figured out. Now, one thing that you really touched up on that I just want to, again, really help push back on the audience as they come to some of the leadership training, if they're either already a member or if they want to learn more about the Economic Alliance, is really challenging the person to become a better leader. Because when I worked for large organizations, ran multiple organizations, and there's a lot of leadership training from good to great and all these things. But I don't know how many times I took that and transferred that into Jason Lee's life. I knew how to get a person to execute better, to drive a better KPI, but then to go home and really reflect on the kind of leader I was for my family, for my friends in the community. What you're really doing is changing the person, and changing the person to get better, so that they can be better in all facets.
But you're talking about management versus leadership too.
Absolutely.
You can manage KPIs, right? We can look at key performance indicators, and we can improve this, we can improve that, and blah blah blah. But actually really leading those people beyond those KPIs, and not just focusing on those, saying, hey, you got to hit this index, you got to make 10 calls today, or you're fired. Lead them, and say, 10 calls is really where we like you to be. I want you to do 15. What does that look like?
Well, and even, I would say, absolutely, but even, 15 is still a ceiling.
Sure.
I don't care what the ceiling is. When you lead people towards a vision, towards their growth, towards their passion, when you are able to tap into that person's desires, then the numbers happen. So you set numbers, but they'll exceed the numbers because they bought in, that you believe in them, that you value them, right? And when we understand that it's got to be we before me, right? And so, but I've got to work on me to get to the we. I can't grow people past my level of growth. So wherever my ceiling is, everyone else's is here. Unless they're superstars and go around me, this is as far as they'll go. So if I'm not growing, I can't grow people. I'll never grow people past my own level of growth, and that's critical. I've got a survey or quiz we do, a little assessment. It's called Boss Manager Leader. It's a 10-question deal that helps you determine where do you line up. Are you more of a boss, more of a manager, or more of a leader? It's not saying any one of them is bad per se, but it's saying you need to. Okay, but here's the thing. So this is what I learned in COVID, right? People would say boss. We don't want a boss.
Right.
It's wrong. We needed bosses in COVID because a boss takes charge and says, I don't have time to get you all on the same page. This crisis is in front of us. I'm going to be a boss, and I'm going to move everyone with me. But if you built equity prior to that, they understand that you're not living as a boss, you're stepping into a boss role. They'll go with you because you have equity, but you can't live there. But we needed bosses through this crisis who just were going to take the reins, right? Then you've got managers who their sole focus is getting a task done, and the measurables, the KPIs, right? And we need good managers. But just because you're a good manager doesn't make you a good leader. And people want to take good managers and say, oh, they're leadership. We're going to put them over teams because they've managed and gotten things done and check. Doesn't mean they'll be good leaders.
No.
right? So then we've got leaders who are overseeing and managing and growing to make sure the managers and the teams are working, but I take it another level to a transformational leader. And a transformational leader's focus is on something greater than itself. It's the vision, mission of the organization. So they're growing people to grow people. They still have to lead projects. They still have to manage and achieve and accomplish the checklist, right? And sometimes they've got to be a boss because things just need to be done. I need to make that decision. But a transformational leader will be a great leader, a great manager, and know how to be a boss in the right way, right? Ooh. So you'll get that. Managers may or may not, but you got to be all. You've got to be, as a transformational leader, you've got to be able to move through that, because it's about growing people. When you grow people and invest in them, they believe in themselves, you and the company, they're going to do what you need them to do. They're going to be loyal, they're going to work harder, they're going to stay, because they see a place there. And that's what this generation, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
The Gen Zs, the Gen Ys.
We got a lot of,
that's the whole deal there.
But ordering lunch.
Go part two, right? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, you get me going.
I think, I love what you're saying, because it's a great transition to one of our last questions, which is IMPACT Pasadena.
Oh, absolutely.
Phenomenal leadership program, but here you are driving the behaviors of people who aren't getting paid. Right, meaning you've been empowered to go take a group of leaders for our community in this area, specifically Pasadena, and then take them to the next level of their leadership. Yet they're showing up as volunteers, and that's not always the easiest thing.
Well,
right?
They're paying a good chunk of money to be a part. Well, so they're not volunteering walking in that door.
Right.
They put money in. Right. They're skin in the game for them to be in that place.
Well, tell us about it.
So IMPACT Pasadena Leadership. It's 2 years. We're in our third year. Right, our second year was we take 12 people. They are leaders already in our community. They could be CEOs, managers. They work with the colleges, the hospital systems. They work in industry. We've partnered with some of the major corporations that are part of the alliance. Pinnacle's been a part of it. The med system, San Jacinto College, Conica has had people in it. So
Nice.
So they've all put in people who are already leaders, but they also want to invest in them to grow them as leaders. Business owners, entrepreneurs have been a part. We take 12 people, and it's actually an 18-month program, 12-month intensive on personal growth and leadership. So the personal development, developing their personal vision, mission, value statement, their definition of leadership. So they'll go through public speaking and training on how to communicate. They'll do all of that, and then they'll learn about the city. They'll learn about the government. They'll learn about business and entrepreneurship. They'll get in front of amazing people and leaders and organizations and company throughout the greater Pasadena area. Right? And then they have a mentor. So everyone that comes in is assigned a mentor who's been doing business for 40 to 50 years. And that mentor is their personal guide. They can call out and reach out to them at any time, ask them questions about anything, and learn from their wisdom and their experience. So they're each given a mentor for that period of time. And then they work on a project to help make an impact in the community together. It's not a cleaning a park or putting up a sign. It's called collective impact, and they look at a way to take their collective equity and resources to do something sustainable and changing the culture and growing the culture of Pasadena. Ooh. And so we do that. And so it was interesting when you talk about leadership. So we started our second year in January. We had our big retreat. We go 3 days to the Houstonian. We get away for 3 days, so it's a pretty nice deal. I mean, this is a high-end thing. It's a next level, as Ken Phelps likes to say, a next level program. And then COVID hit. And so we had all this stuff lined up. We were going to Washington, D.C. We've got all these speakers. We've got amazing things, and then everything gets locked down. So right in that moment, we had to decide, do we keep going or do we pivot? And so we pivoted, and we went online, and we went on Zoom. And what we found out, it was hard, but we were able to get more amazing speakers from around the nation and around the world that were willing to give us their time on a Zoom call that we never could have gotten in person.
Nice.
And so the exposure that they got, even though it wasn't in person, was phenomenal. We were created for relationship. So COVID was a painful thing because we missed the real connection we get right here, the energy we feel here.
Of course.
We all know that, but we were able to pivot and adapt and work with these guys and take them through this last year. And I think it was as successful, if not more successful, than year one. We've taken a pause, so we don't have a class this year because we've learned a lot in the first 2 years. And so we're maturing the curriculum, we're maturing how we're doing things in light of the changes, and we are launching IMPACT Pasadena Leadership 2022. We'll start January with a retreat, and we're taking applications. We'll start taking applications probably 1st of August or 1st of July. We're working on that right now through the Chamber of Commerce in Pasadena. It's already up on their site, so you can get information. And we'll take 12 people. And so there's a cost for them to come in. A lot of their companies will pay that cost. And then we have amazing legacy sponsors and sponsors that help underwrite it. We partner with the City of Pasadena, with the Economic Development Organization with the City of Pasadena. And it's an amazing program. It's unlike anything I've ever been a part of. It isn't just learning about the city. We focus on personal growth development, strengthening them as a person as they go and lead their companies and their organizations, which will make them better leaders and influencers in their organization.
Fantastic.
I'll breathe. Thanks for asking about that, though.
Here,
if people
have
are
some water.
Yeah, no, I'll do this one. You know, COVID. I'll go this way. You know. But they can register here in the next month or so or get more information through the Chamber, Impact Pasadena Leadership.
So fantastic stuff. We're going to give you a second before we wrap up the show to tell people how to get a hold of you here in a moment. But as we wrap up, tell us fun facts, anything that for everybody knows you, and if they haven't met you through this show, they're going to find out a lot about you from your leadership style, your experience, your connection to those in the community. Give us something that maybe not everybody knows.
Oh man,
I'm
such an open book.
Yeah,
it's hard. If you spend
hard.
any time with me, unfortunately, you get more than you bargained for, as you know, as you guys have already learned in this conversation, right?
I brought my popcorn.
Man, what don't people know? Well, there's probably not a lot that they know. I love the beach. My safe place is my feet in the water.
Oh, nice.
And so that anywhere that I can get around the water and the beach and the power of the waves and just sitting there is a place for me to recharge. Played basketball in college. And a little bit in Australia overseas out of college. So that was,
wow.
That's interesting.
And so I coached basketball here at Pasadena High School. I came in right after Phil Eaton left and they went to state. And so they were at the pinnacle. And then I came in as a JV coach with Dave Ward and we went here. But then this last year, Pasadena High School, if any of you are Eagles, they went to state. They won their district. So I was like, so anyways, that's a few things. Love my family. Got 2 adopted kids. I say that because it's the greatest gift God gave us was our 2 children who are in their 20s now, and I love that, and so that's real important to me as well. I pastored a church for 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, there you go.
Most interesting man in the world.
Yeah.
Looks like he's ain't got nothing on you. So as we wrap up.
Yep.
So guys, on the video, if you're watching from YouTube, you're going to be able to click on some links that might take you to some of the information on the Transformational Leadership Series. But for those that want to reach out to you, learn more about your right now leadership, as well as finding this info or contact you directly, how do they do that?
So the easiest way would be to just email me, and that's easy. It's my name, rick@ricktorrison.com. I've got a website, which is ricktorrison.com. I'm working on updating some things, so there's some links that are broken because it updated, so we're working on that. The next leadership series, I think it's going to be, May 11th, I think, or 9th? It'll be in there, but it's on the 3 C's of hiring: character, culture, and competency.
Nice.
So we're going to talk about hiring and the things that are going on with that. I don't know when this is going to come out, actually, so we might have just dated it, right? So if not, the second Tuesday of every month, we are doing another Transformational Leadership Series. And then follow me on social media. So I've got my Facebook page, which is Rick Torrison, but I started a private group. It's called Created for More. And it's really narrow and focused. You've got to ask to join. And that group is really all about investing in your personal growth and then investing in others. It's iron sharpens iron. There's resources, tools, videos, and a smaller community that's focused on growing themselves and investing in growing others. I've got CEOs on there to entrepreneurs to startups that have joined that group, and that's really where we live and do life together around these principles and then offer the different programs that we do.
Nice.
But I'd love to help. I'd love to come and partner with organizations and companies. I've worked with a lot of the companies here on the SHIP channel and small businesses, individuals to help coach, help them establish their culture. I do a lot of conflict resolution, communication training, so yeah. Anyways.
You really do, and you've done a great job of giving back to the community. So we're thankful for that and thankful to have you on the show. And again, as always, you can tune in each week to the Economic Alliance Gulf Coast Growth Show. We're excited to have you guys. Rick, you've been phenomenal as a guest.
Enjoyed it.
Second time, a charm, as always. I'm sure we'll have you on the show in the future.
We'll see.
I feel like you're going to be doing tons of cool stuff. By then, we should
If he's not too big time
Clint,
for us.
right?
That's awesome.
I'll say you'll be as great as Clint. Mine will be completely completely gone. And then, so I'm pretty excited about that. You can follow us, Clint, myself, always reach out to us via LinkedIn, or you can tune into our show through really the easiest place to go to the website. It's the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. You can just Google it, find our location. Inside of that, you can find all the information even Rick talked about. There's everything from an events calendar, and then you can even subscribe to our show. You can also tune in to YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, our LinkedIn page. I mean, if you can't find us,
you're everywhere.
Well, the funny part is if you're listening, then you probably found us. So I always add that in.
So share it with somebody, tag somebody, push it to somebody, and grow the community. It's a great show. Grow the community.
Stuff like this out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.